And as I love to say, what do I like to say? Welcome to another great day in the City of Concord, because it really is a great day. Even though we might be on the Boscawen side, but it's okay, because the energy's over there, so it's all right. So I am really pleased. So now, first of all, before I begin, it's great to be joined by my fellow councilors. We have Councilor Champlin, Councilor Todd, representing right in his home. Can you feel it at home right here in Penacook? We have Councilor Brown. And of course, we have our city manager, Mr. Espel, and Mr. LeBron, our CEO. CEO? CFO. How about CFO? How's that? Is it a title? Okay. Anyways. So this morning, we have the pleasure of announcing an agreement, a net metering agreement between Briar Hydro and the City of Concord. And before I even get into some of the details, I think it's really important to talk a little bit about the City of Concord. We have an Energy and Environment Committee who is made up of citizens throughout our community who truly, and some councilors that is, but who truly, through their nothing other than volunteer effort, who participate monthly meetings and such, but they have really pushed the city and they've worked closely with Mr. LeBron to make this happen. But they've done so much more throughout the community that we can talk about, but they're truly making a difference. And I give our former councilor tremendous amount of credit for making that happen. So this agreement calls for the City of Concord to commit to 9 million kilowatt hours per year. And the city is continuing to support its operation and financial performance of a local, and I want to emphasize that, local renewable energy facility through this agreement. So the key things are, A, it supports clean local generation, which is really important. Keyword being local. And what does it really mean to taxpayers? And this is important to everyone in the City of Concord. This agreement is expected to generate financial credits of approximately $100,000 per year for 18 years for the City of Concord. That is a huge accomplishment. So again, I want to thank the Energy Committee, Mr. LeBron, all the folks who have participated in this effort. I think it's a huge success for everyone, and it is my pleasure now to introduce our COO, Madeleine Mineau, from Briar Hydro.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I want to welcome everyone to our Penacook Lower Falls facility. We are a local company and we own this facility as well as 2 other dams and hydroelectric generators upstream, Penacook Upper Falls and Rolfe Canal. We are so pleased to have this partnership with the city. As a local company, we try to be good neighbors and good citizens, good stewards of the rivers, and this completes that partnership where we actually can have our electricity benefit the local community and the city. So we're thrilled to have you all here to visit today, and I'll hand it off to Rob Werner.
Thank you, Madeleine. So it's very important, obviously, to be supporting a local resource. Without the participation of off-takers and participation of not only cities, but other kinds of entities, whether it be a school district or private entity, to support the generation here in the City of Concord for a renewable, local, clean energy resource, it not only supports our city's goals, as the mayor has indicated, but it really supports the goals of our entire state and really our entire region, because remember, we are all part of a single electric grid, all 6 New England states. So anytime that we can support local generation of renewable energy that goes into the grid, that supports our communities, supports local employment, provides an annual revenue to a municipality, that's a really good thing. And that is what we have accomplished here today. So I'm very proud of the efforts of the City of Concord. I'm proud of our city administration. I'm proud of my former fellow city councilors. I'm proud of our folks that serve with me on the Energy Committee. But this is a very important day and move for the City of Concord. And I know that there are other generation facilities around the state that have the same opportunity. So we're really looking forward to that activity, and thank you very much for being here. Take care.
So I'm happy happy to give a tour to anyone who wants to stick around. So this is a 4.6 megawatt capacity facility. So that means that at 100% power, it's generating 4.6 megawatts at a given time. So we are in part in Concord and in part in Boscawen. Part of the dam is in Concord, the powerhouse here is in Boscawen, but we actually deliver the electricity over there to that substation, which is in Concord. So this has sort of an interesting dam structure. When you go over there, you'll see there's a water diversion that's a ways upstream, and then it goes along. We have a spillway, so when there's extra water, the water can flow right over the spillway. There's also a number of gates that we can use to hold the water. And then you'll see the intake structure. The big thing that you see sticking out into the air is a trash rake. There's a lot of debris that comes in with the river, anything from leaves to sticks to trash. And we have to clear the intake regularly. And so in the fall, particularly, we have to do that quite a bit. That can be automated. So this whole technology is really old, but it has been updated. So this plant went into service in 1983, but we have upgraded controls and things like that, so we have pretty modern technology, though the basic turbine is quite old technology. So I have a little schematic, since you can't see the inside, so that you can understand. This is a single double regulated Champlin turbine. So I'll show you all of the different parts when we go in. So this is the intake here. That's that section over there. So the water flows this way through there's doubly regulated means that there are both wicket gates, and then the blades of the actual propeller turbine also are controllable. So the water goes through here. This is called a stay column. I'll show you when we're inside what part that is. It goes through, and then the water dips down. And so if you look, this is the powerhouse where the turbine is, and then the water actually comes out down there. So the difference between the impoundment elevation and the elevation down there is our head. And so to generate hydropower, it's a function of head, or the elevation drop in the water, and the amount of water going through the turbine, and then the efficiency of the turbine. So, I mean, you guys can probably talk about it more since you know about operations.
Well, it's a period of time where you have good air entrainment with the water. You know, usually it's a 15-degree or lower time, and you have good wind. So you've got good air entrainment from some of the falls that are coming downstream, especially the bypass reach up at Briar, and the water gets super cool. So as the super cooled water, when it starts to pass through our trash racks, it sticks and it becomes structural, and it will actually block the water from getting into the turbine. So
all these ice chunks start
and you know, it looks like a slushy, that kind of stuff, but it's structural. Right. And it will, in fact, block the water from getting into the turbine at our trash racks. And usually, you know, the morning that'll happen middle of the night, or sometimes early in the night if it's really cold enough. We'll be shut down for that night. The following morning, the sun comes up, you just get a little bit of sun, and it'll start going the other way. The super cool nature of the water comes back up. But the good news is we start to build that ice cap. And once we build that ice cap, it's like an insulation blanket.
Yeah. The water goes underneath, and we're all set. We've, so I said we've started operating in 1983. So any flood that's happened since 1983, we've had to deal with. The most recent really large water event was the Mother's Day flood. We've been able to pass all of them. So we are federally regulated. We have to go through an incredible amount of oversight, engineering review, to make sure that we are supposed to be able to pass the 100-year flood. So as I mentioned, there are gates here, there are gates in the section up there that you can't see, and then this entire spillway is meant to pass water. And so, similarly at our other facilities, Penacook Upper Falls has a tremendous amount of gates that we can open. And so our facilities have to be designed to be able to pass a tremendous amount of water.
You ever reduce
in because of so much water down below?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, too much water is not great for us to operate either. I would say we go into flood management mode, and we're just really working on safely managing the water. We're not really concerned about producing electricity at that point. We're putting as much water through the turbine as we can because it helps bring water downstream. But it's not an efficient time to be generating electricity. We're really focused on safely managing the water so we don't flood properties upstream. So this is Lower Falls. If you go up just right in town in Penacook, that's the Penacook Upper Falls. And then a little ways upstream of that on Washington Street, we have our Rolfe Canal facility. So we have all three of these in a row here.
And are they all same size, or?
Roughly. Upper is smaller. So
in the last mile of the Penacook River, there's about 100 feet ahead. And Briar gets in the 30, 36 range, Penacook Upper around 26, and then this one again 36. That may not add up to 100. It's about 100
So
feet
upper
ahead.
is 3.2 megawatts. Roughly 3.
Yeah, I think 3.7 technically. This one's
3.7,
4.6. Rolfe is 4.7 again. Yep.
They were really great to work with back in the upstate flood that you mentioned.
Yeah.
River Road went underwater, and you guys were making sure you're putting enough water, as much water as you could through.
Yeah.
We were pumping out all the basements along River Road, and we actually had to stop off River Road and make sure. We deal with the same thing. We deal with the same issues with water flow. We're pumping to the Little Pond or to Penacook Lake.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of same issues. We work together really close, and Essex has always been great to work with.
Yeah, I would say ice jams are more of a challenge as well. We've dealt with a few of those. We have to be really careful in the spring when either they start breaking up and piling up. Those can be really tricky to manage. So there's a lot that goes into managing a dam that goes along with hydroelectric operations that goes a lot beyond just generating electricity. So this is the intake. Bill mentioned trash racks. So if you notice, don't look too far over the edge, but you can see that there are bars that make sure that larger debris is not going to go through the turbine to damage the actual equipment. And this is the rake that actually rakes up any debris, brings it onto the deck, has to get cleaned out. So the water goes in here and out there.
Have you ever had any?
Over time, sediment will damage the turbine.
Really?
And things oh yeah. Because it's just so much velocity and pressure. There's also a lot of pressure through the constrained passage. And so over time, really anything will wear.
Kind of like something innocuous being driven by a tornado.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, bubbles are a big problem.
Really?
Yes, it's called cavitation. So if there's a change in pressure, or there's some air being entrained, bubbles can actually, in that environment, will damage the equipment, damage metal.
Wow.
So we have shared operators. So this is actually our operations base for the whole company. We have facilities in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And we have sort of pods that I would say of workers in those areas as well. But this is our primary base of operations. We have
20.
Well, total operators, but here based in Penacook, 8. There's 8 operators at different levels, I would say. And so I would say day to day it takes an operator per facility. Okay. But different companies have different philosophies. We do a lot of the big maintenance and repairs ourselves, and so that requires additional staff. Some hydro companies contract out all of the big repairs and just do the basic operations.
You have facilities in Nashua, right?
So we don't own those. So we own and operate 12, and then we are the contract operator for the city of Nashua for Pine Falls and Jackson Mills that the city owns, but we operate for them.
And is the city going to pursue similar type of arrangements?
So Jackson Mills is because it's 1 megawatt, has already been net metering with the city. net meters with a wastewater treatment facility. And once Mine Falls is currently on a contract, once that contract ends, they intend to group net meter at the city facility.
So before the net metering kicked in, were you just selling the power on the open market, or do you have another option?
This facility, before we switched over, was in the wholesale market.
So how is that going to affect the company finances? Are you going to make more or less?
So obviously it depends, right? Like the wholesale market changes hour to hour. The default service rate, which is what the net metering credit is based on, changes every 6 months. It's been in the headlines that Liberty and Eversource's rate just went through the roof. Unitil is not there, right? Unitil for G2 is at 9.6 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's the credit we are getting. Then we have arrangement with the city and other group members to return to them some of that value. So we're getting we get to keep a discounted amount of that. So it's not running right now. We can fire it up. Yeah, so it's not running right now. We'll fire it up when we're.
So we actually will start it for you,
Yeah.
because we got to start.
So this pick here is the stay column that I showed you on that diagram up there. I left it up there. I showed him all the parts, but then I left the diagram up there. So this is the stay column. So the water actually goes around that. This is where the end of the shaft is. So there's a shaft, and you'll see over there that goes all the way from here through the turbine. The propeller is turning the shaft and goes through there. The water passage is down below the concrete out to the tail race. The shaft goes to that big blue box that says Philadelphia is a gearbox. So it actually speeds up the rotation between the turbine, and then the gray box that you see over there is the generator that actually turns the mechanical rotational energy into electrical energy.
Do you have regularly scheduled maintenance outages that you perform during the course of the year?
So we try to do that in the summer when we don't have enough water. So we try to just plan it. So we know there's times during the year where we won't have enough water. So we plan all of our scheduled maintenance during those times.
Have you had a lot of instances of forced outages, or is that not usually a problem because you're keeping up with the maintenance?
Knock on wood, we haven't.
Good.
Things happen, right? Like I said, this was built in the 80s. It's older equipment. We try to upgrade things and keep up on our maintenance as best as we can, but there are some unplanned outages that happen.
Do you have any problems with parts? I mean, is this generator still?
I'll say, well, like every business, we've had a lot of trouble with supply chain issues, with contractors not having enough labor, with things just taking a tremendous amount of time to get repaired, and costs just going through the roof. From everything from anything that's made out of steel or concrete or lumber, or everything is really expensive right now. Generally, we're able to source the parts. Bill and Dan are actually really great at finding what we need. Sometimes it's on eBay, sometimes we go to the used market, but we do what we need to find what we have to find.
So this is
This pit here is that stay column.
we're right over.
So we're sort of on the deck up there.
Yep,
right?
yep, got it.
Yeah.
So the propeller is in the smallest part of the tube.
You see there's a smaller section.
Yep.
That's where the propeller actually
Okay.
is.
Right.
So it constrains. I was talking about pressure
Yeah.
and bubbles sometimes being a problem. It's because in part you're constraining the flow right there. Yeah, that ring is those wicket gates, so they actually turn.
Yep, yep.
And will control the flow, so we can control the angle of the propeller blades and control the wicket gates that control the
This is
flow.
really a very simple system.
It is. I mean, when it comes down to it.
Hydro is
Yeah.
a turn of the century,
Yeah.
20th century
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing. So
Yeah.
absolutely. This is a horizontal double regulated paddlet.
Yeah.
So we've got double regulation, which allows us to make efficient use of the water down to in the greatest range of flow. So at full flow, I don't know if Madeleine had said this to you already, it's 2,000 cubic feet per second is what the turbine can consume, and then at the low end, we can probably get down to 150 to 200 CFS is the bottom, and that's summertime flows like we're at right now.
Right, right. So basically, this system hasn't changed much since, this is, in principle, this is very similar to the systems that used to drive the mills down in Manchester,
Yep.
here in Penacook, except that Here, it generates electricity instead of turning, you know, leather.
They used to just use the rotational energy to continue to be used as mechanical energy.
You're thinking of hydromechanical.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
What happened in the Lowell Lawrence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what Page belting did, was all those big belts that were used to
Yep.
turn all of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So a number of dams have been looking into upgrading, basically increasing their output, swapping out the generator, I guess, mostly. Is that an option here, or?
So these facilities are going through relicensing. We always look at opportunities to generate more. For most of these, that's not an option. Here, we may have to make some modifications that actually are tied to fish passage, but we might have to redesign the intake. But it may actually also allow us to generate a little bit more electricity. So we're looking at that. There's also a lot of folks in the industry that are looking at minimum flow units. So here that's not an issue, but at Rolfe Canal, we currently put 100 cubic feet per second of water over York Dam into the York bypass. And so that's 100 cubic feet per second of water that we can't make electricity with. It's important to keep the water flow in that section of the river, but we may look at putting a really small turbine there, or you know, a lot of times to have the environmental benefit, there's a need for increased bypass flows, and at some point you can put a little mini unit there to always be making electricity. We have that at some of our other facilities.
Fish passage for these 3 dams, is it anything?
So, in our current licenses, which I expect will be the expectation for the future, we have requirements tied to downstream facilities. So, Hooksett and Garvin's Falls on the Merrimack River don't currently have upstream fish passage, which means the fish can't get here. And so there's no point in us having a fish ladder if the fish can't get here. So we have specific requirements that once it's like a domino effect. Once this dam puts in their fish ladder and it works, the next dam has to put in their fish ladder and show that it works. And then, so I expect that we would have an expectation like that. We do a lot for eels. So American eels is a big species of concern for the federal agencies especially. And so at Penacook Upper Falls, we have an eel lift. We actually lift them up in a little bucket. Here and at York Dam, they can climb over the dam. American eels are amazing climbers. As long as you have a wetted surface, they can pretty much climb vertical. And then during the fall, during the out migration, we actually have to shut down at night when it rains a certain amount to allow for the eels to pass without going into the turbine. So we modify our operations to do, to allow for safe fish passage. Sometimes we have to build a new structure, sometimes we have to modify our operations, sometimes it's a combination of both.